Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Music Made Me. Thank you so much for joining us once again. We truly do appreciate it. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure you are liking, sharing, following, subscribing to us on whatever streaming service you're listening on. Also, head over to social media. Give us a follow there as well so you can stay up to date on all the exciting interviews that we have coming up in the future. Today, we have a very exciting conversation because we're sitting down with country music singer-songwriter Chase Rice. His new song, Drinkin Beer, Talkin God, Amen, features the boys from Florida Georgia Line. Now, Chase has actually had quite the journey with the two boys, mostly with Brian Kelley. He actually grew up with him in Florida. They played ball when they were young. They wrote when they first got to Nashville together. And then, after years of chasing the dream, they've come back together for this song. It's really a full circle moment for Chase, and we talked about that entire journey and what it has meant for his career. So please enjoy our conversation with Chase Rice. Drinkin Beer, Talkin God, Amen, FGL. It's a full circle moment for you, and I'm hoping to kind of follow around that circle and follow your guys' journey, because it really feels like without each other, your paths would have been very different. So I want to start from the beginning and growing up in Florida and you and Brian Kelley playing ball, hanging out. What was it like back then? Was music a thing for either of you back then, or was sports really the focus?
Sports was the focus for sure. But music was a thing in a way, and you know, we were fans. We were huge fans. Like, we'd listen to Kenny Chesney, we'd listen to Nelly, we'd listen to all the above, which is funny to me because we're going to talk about full circle. They were supposed to tour with Kenny this year. I've toured with Kenny. Nelly's been a big part of their career and in my career as a writer. So yeah, we were fans. It's almost like if you could have had somebody come up to us and say, you know, you guys are playing sports right now, but how could you paint a picture of your life? And we responded, oh, well, we're going to do music. We're going to kind of do it together. We're going to have success into arenas and stadiums. And you're going to be able to tour with these artists that you grew up loving. Cool. Okay, let's do that. That sounds fun. And then it's like, and then we'll go back to reality, and that'll never happen because that's ridiculous. and then it happened. So we were just fans. And then I'd say when I moved to North Carolina at 11 years old is when Brian and I became real good buddies outside of sports. And his family would come up and visit in Cashiers, North Carolina, and we'd hang out. And one of the times he came and visited, Brian had a guitar. And I remember his mom saying, yeah, he's getting really into it. He really loves it. So he played some songs, and I was like, damn, dude, hell, that's awesome. And then fast forward, you know, to the next year, maybe, I started picking guitar, and I remember one time we played back and forth. It was definitely in college because I didn't learn to play guitar till my sophomore year. So I remember one time we played a couple songs back and forth, or maybe he just played songs at that point. I can't remember, but that was when I was like, man, this is fun. I just love picking guitar, and him and I stayed close through college and
in college, before we move on from that, when your injury happened and football was no longer an option, in your mind, did you think, hey, maybe music is an option for me? Or was it still just a hobby at that point in playing the guitar?
It was just a hobby. Sophomore year, I learned to play. Then junior year, going into senior year, I wrote my first song because my dad had passed away. And then I wrote my second song about a girl in Georgia. I was just doing it because it was kind of a hobby for me. And that was it. I went into recording an acoustic album at a place called Night Sound Studios in Carborough, North Carolina, right outside Chapel Hill where I lived.
Oh, okay.
And when I wrote that album and started producing it acoustically, it started turning into a full band. That's when I was like, oh, this is cool. Something for me. It was just something for me because it was not great. And the fact that I actually let that fly and let other people hear it wasn't the smartest idea. I'm glad that music's not out there.
Was that Friday night and Sunday morning? Was that
Friday
album?
nights and Sunday mornings. It had a couple hints that I'm decent, but I should not have been putting out music at that time.
And one of the turning points for you was you went into NASCAR for a bit after college and worked as a pit crew member. And then you had a little incident and were suspended for 2 weeks. And that was kind of the turning point for you, because during that 2 weeks, you went to Nashville and hung out with Brian, right?
Yeah, that was when I was like, while I was in NASCAR, that was really when it turned from, and this was only probably a year away from that first record that I wrote and recorded in Carborough. That was when it turned from I'm miserable, from this is a hobby to I'm miserable in this hotel. And the only thing I know that's making me happy right now is writing songs. And I wrote a lot of those songs, actually. That album that was supposed to be acoustic just started turning into full album. New songs that I was writing in the hotel. I wrote a lot of those songs in the hotel, that I was living in when I moved to Charlotte. So that was when it turned from hobby to I don't like the life I'm living and I need something else. And that's when I visited Brian, and it was like that first weekend, that's when I was like, this is what I want to do.
And how quickly did you guys click in writing and really getting into a rhythm of writing a lot?
That weekend we didn't write. I can't remember how long it was between then. Then I went and did Survivor, which is crazy. I literally did that show because not for fame, not for a little bit for money. I was like, this could be helpful.
Right.
But I wanted to figure, it was like a perfect segue from, okay, I don't have to quit my job now. I can go on Survivor, hopefully win, hopefully lose weight. And then I can move. Then I have a reason to move to Nashville and a way to move to Nashville. So that was huge for me to get through that summer. As soon as I got back, it was like I went straight to Nashville to hang out with the guys, not to move there.
Right.
But it was just like I wanted to go. And that on Survivor, I actually decided, man, this is what I want to do. Like I'm going to go for it. Because when you're by yourself alone on an island, you have a lot of time to think. And I talked to a lot of people on it. I didn't talk about it on the show because I didn't want to be that guy that does reality TV and then tries to have a music career, even though that's kind of what happened. But it wasn't because I was a NASCAR guy. That's what I was on the show as. I didn't want to talk about music because I didn't want to be that guy. And then, right away I went to Nashville hanging out. And they had a buddy that actually got severe depression. So they had a room available in the house, like right then. And so that night, drunk at Tin Roof, and we all decided, all right, I'll move in and let's just start doing this thing. And it took them a minute because they already had their thing going. They had Florida Georgia Line going. And it was really Brian that pushed, dude, let's write some songs. Let's write. Well, he believed in me before I did.
And in early 2011, you both released an EP. So did you work on those closely together?
Yeah. He was one of the co-producers on it with me and Jesse Rice. Same crew. It was the same crew that wrote Cruise. And that was when I was like, okay, this sounds way better than what I did way back when. And that's when I started getting a little traction. And they started getting a lot of traction with once they got Joey Moy involved in production. So,
and what was it like during that time, in that 2012 time? Because you released Dirt Road Communion, and that's when Cruise started to take off as well. So what was it like after having all those experiences with them and you're both sort of starting to take off at the same time? Was it pretty exciting?
It was awesome because we were touring in Brian's van, Brian's Tahoe. So that was when we toured together. We called it the Best Damn Country Tour, and there was 20 people showing up to every show. That was it. I remember Mississippi State, we had to go to the sorority houses to hand out free CDs. So yeah, it was exciting. We were green, we were young, we were having fun. And it was a time where we didn't have any reason to believe in ourselves the way we did, but we knew if we keep going with this, we don't care that the people in Nashville are saying no. We have a good thing going. Let's just keep rolling with it.
And in 2014, Ignite the Night, that was a big one for you. And Brian had 3 cuts on that album. Dirt Road Communion, he had a ton. So was that 2014 and Ignite the Night? Was that sort of when you guys started to go your separate ways as you started to do your own thing and not be able to kind of come together as much?
Yeah, because FGL was taking off. They were just blowing up, and they went the route of let's have as many hits as possible and tour. I went the route of I don't care about hits. I just want to tour.
Right.
That's the hard way, and I'm not sure if I could do it again if I do it that way. The thing that I realized looking back is they were focused on. They were good. They were well ahead of me in the quality of the music and the production of the music. So they were taking off, which was huge for me because as soon as I moved to Nashville, they were a crutch for me. We started writing. It was easy. And I had to figure out after that, okay, who am I going to write with? Who am I as an artist? I got to figure this thing out on my own now, which was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. And now I would say the first thing that I ever put out that I genuinely knew who I was and what I wanted to do was Eyes on You. Even though I had 2 top 5s before that, it was like, I had no idea what I was doing. Eyes on You was the beginning. That led to, that the Lambs and Lions record coming out, that which led to the album, which is, now this record's, I've figured out who I am, what I want to do. And I've even looked at the album. And I'm like, okay, there's a couple songs I may not do. That's okay. They're out. Let's go. And I'm just continuing to learn and continuing to get better. And I think the album is overall the best work I've ever done. It's got, Lonely If You Are on there, Forever to Go, which is becoming a huge underground hit. I'm Drinkin Beer, Talkin God, Amen. It's got The Nights on there, which is on part 3. It's like, it's slowly progressed to, oh man, this is who I am. And now it's about the music. It's not about anything else. It's about the songs and making them the best that they can possibly be. Because if I'm in this for any other reason, they're wrong reasons.
Right. And with the album, with part 3, was that done before everything sort of shut down? Like, I know you had at least written Drinkin Beer, Talkin God, Amen before everything shut down. But as far as the production and getting it together, was that done earlier this year or was it done earlier in 2020?
That was done earlier this year. We had Drinkin Beer, Talkin God, Amen. That was written last day of tour in Lawrence, Kansas in 2019. That was obviously done before this year because it's been out. And then I had a song called The Nights. Then I had a song, which I always wanted to be on the last part of the album, whatever that ended up looking like. I thought it was a closing chapter that I needed to close and move on, in my life, not just the song.
Right.
If I Didn't Have You was written 2 or 3 years ago in Oklahoma, then hunting camp, and then Bedroom was written during quarantine. So there were all these songs that had 4 different identities, completely different, and the way that they happened, the way they were produced, and the way they came together. It was like, all right, these 4 songs don't belong anywhere else. They kind of belong with each other. And that's why I chose these 4 for part 3. And, ending the album with a song that's becoming a massive hit right now is pretty cool. It's like, okay, this is closing of a chapter in the strongest way you can possibly close it. And now whatever comes next is going to be even a whole nother level. You just got to stacking songs that just continue to beat each other.
And how positive is it having this hit at this moment when you're ready to just take off and everything's opening up and you're ready to do it? Like, what does that mean to have this song along with you right now?
It's huge. During the pandemic, there's only 3 ways for an artist to go. It's either go backwards and just don't do it. It's either stay stagnant and just kind of stay relevant, or it's let's go. And that's where we are. We're let's go. We've done a lot of work during the pandemic. I've taken a lot of time off too, but even through the time off, I was still showing my life and staying active with the fans. And now it's like, okay, we're back to touring. We're back to music. We're back to releasing music. It's time to fly now. We got a huge hit coming. And now we can't get complacent there though. It's like, what's next? Enjoy it while it's happening, but also I'm working on the next album, and especially the next single that's going to follow Drinkin Beer, Talkin God, Amen. And that's going to lead to a full album later this year, hopefully.
Right. Exciting stuff. And with working with FGL on this song, was it a closing of a chapter, almost like we've talked? It's like full circle. Or do you feel it's the beginning of something and reconnecting with them and maybe taking a new journey with them at this point?
It's both. It's definitely a new journey for us because we're completely different people than we were 10 years ago. We're completely different artists than we were 10 years ago. So in that way, it's the beginning of a new chapter with them and with a song finally together. But it's also the closing of that old chapter. It's Cruise's old news. They've had a ton of hits since then. I've had hits since then.
Yeah.
That's the closing part. The new part is Drinkin Beer, Talkin God, Amen. It's a whole new chapter in our lives for sure. But the album coming together as a whole is the closing of that chapter. It's like, man, and we couldn't close it any stronger. And setting ourselves up for another album, coming.
Yeah. And do you have enough for an album already, or are you going to continually write when you're on the road?
I have enough for a good album. I'm still in the need of probably 5 more songs to make it a great album, and I'll figure out what those are. But it's production's starting to happen. We got 4 songs closing in on being done. So it's enough for a good album, but the great part's coming.
And I wanted to ask, you've done so much in your life. I wanted to ask, what's more exhilarating, stepping out onto the football field in front of a packed stadium, standing in front of a NASCAR that's ripping into you at 60 miles per hour, or stepping back on stage to a sold out show?
Before, I'd say football, because you're with your boys, you're running out. But taking time off and being away from the stage, walking back onto it again is going to be sweet.
That's awesome. Well, I think we're running out of time. There's so much more I could talk to you about, but thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And hopefully later in the year, when there's new music, we can connect again and talk about all the other things that have happened in your career and all the great things that are continuing to happen.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Brendan. Yeah, we'll be talking a lot more. We got a lot more music coming, including what we got coming this week, or well, I guess next week. But
yeah,
there's a lot going on. It's going to be a lot of good stuff.
That's awesome. Well, I can't wait to have that full album, the album, not part 1, 2, and 3, but just the album. That's got to feel pretty good.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's been a long time coming, but it's finally time.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. Enjoy the road. Take it all in. Experience it. Have fun.
I will. Thanks, Brendan. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys once again so much for listening, and thank you to Chase for stopping by and sharing his story. Be sure to check out his new single, Drinkin Beer, Talkin God, Amen, featuring FGL, and also his new EP, The Album Part 3. And then, once that's released in the future, we'll get the album, which is the culmination of the album Part 1, 2, and 3, which is awesome. Check it out on whatever streaming service you get your music. Please also make sure you are liking, sharing, following, subscribing to us on whatever streaming service you are listening on, and head over to social media. Give us a follow there as well so you can keep up to date on all the exciting episodes that we have coming up in the future. Thank you once again for listening, and we'll see you next time on The Music Made Me.